Is that how you say your last name?
Yeah, Gwynn, Corey Gwynn. You
Corey
got it.
Gwynn. And Corey's actually interviewing me for his podcast, The Right Stuff. I think you can find it if you go to blurt.app
Yep. Yep.
/ right. Is it right dash stuff? Let's see
Yeah,
here.
right dash that. Yeah, I probably need to fix that up. But that's where they're all living right now. Yeah.
Sweet. So yeah, he's just going to be asking me questions and I'll be answering them. And he might need to record his own intro here for his show, but that's what we're doing.
Yep. Flip the script. I'm going to be interviewing Justin. All right. Let's see here. So yeah, I'm just going to do a quick intro, and then, like I said, I'll put a timer here, and we'll just kind of keep it around 15 to 20 minutes. Is kind of what I'm aiming to do.
Sounds good.
So, all right. Hey, everyone. It's Corey, and I'm here today with Justin Jackson, the internet stuntman. Hey, Justin.
Hey, how's it going, Corey? Good to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know. I think I'm trying to think. I remember when you started Product People. And that was probably like what, 8 years ago?
Yeah, I started in 2008. So no, is it 10 years ago? No, wait. I started blogging in 2008. Started Product People in 2012. So you were it was 6 years ago. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So I remember those days, and JFDI, so I feel like you're kind of like one of the first indie maker communities, right? Like that was kind of like the beginning of that whole movement.
Yeah, we've been doing it's called Mega Maker Club now, but that in some iteration or another, it's been going since 2013, and we've grown it really slowly. But yeah, one of the first online communities for indie makers, and we're still, and there was around that time a bunch of other folks started kind of private communities for indie makers, and I think from that vintage we're the only ones still going. So
Awesome.
that either makes me really smart or really dumb.
No, there's still people in there. It's still going. So
Yeah, it's
people
actually
find it
growing
valuable.
more now than it ever has. So
Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, I think it's one of those things that, like a lot of things, sometimes ideas just take time to fully mature. So
Yeah, so we can talk about bootstrapping a little bit too, because I know you've been writing about that. So I know you do a lot of things. Like you're a public speaker. I know you work for some SaaS companies. You did product management.
yeah.
And you've got a new product. Maybe you can talk about that real quick too. I know you're working on something.
Yeah, so starting basically at the beginning of 2018, I started building a podcast hosting platform called Transistor.fm with my friend John Buda. And so we're about 10, 11 months in now, and on the long, slow SaaS ramp of death, as they say. And yeah, I think we've been pretty transparent about our numbers so far. We're just shy of 200 customers and just over $3,000 MRR.
Wow.
So yeah, just trucking along.
happening.
And yeah, we hope. A lot of my writing lately has just been coming from this really raw, real place that this is hard, and I'm right in the middle of it, and it's not just theoretical. It's actually here. And this experience has been quite different than bootstrapping online courses and that membership community we were talking about. And it's also been different than working for bootstrapped software companies. So even though some of those experiences helped me, now that I'm in it, I'm like, wow, eyes wide open. I can see what this is really about. So it's been interesting, and it's definitely been good fodder for my blog and the writing I've been doing.
Yeah, so I was gonna bring it up. So I know, like most notably, you're a great writer. So I know you do great stuff with video and podcasting and streaming lately. But one thing you've always been really great at is writing. I know this is a web page was like, I remember seeing that back in the day and being like, man, that's so clever. It's just words on a page, but it's like, boom, it's like it hits you. It's smart.
Yeah.
And I know your newsletter, you like constantly have new angles with whatever's going on in your life, but it always seems to be kind of relevant to the world, like, the indie maker world also. So Like, how did you get started writing? Like, how was that something that you decided you wanted to be doing?
So I think I've always liked writing. I have, I think one of my first businesses was publishing a newspaper for my family when I was like 10 years old or something. And, writing all the articles and laying it out and printing it and then distributing it to the members of my family. So I think I've liked writing for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And I've told this story before, but I think it's worth repeating. In high school, I was in an advanced English class and kind of felt like, okay, I like writing. Maybe I want to do some writing, later on in life as a career or something. And my grade 12 English teacher, Dr. Nyberg, who was just this amazing woman who was an incredible teacher, she made us write a 3-point essay every single week. And at the time, I hated it. But that rigor, that practice, that, pushing all of me to do that every week, it really made me a better writer. And so after high school, I got into college, and I have my business degree, but kind of in the liberal arts. And so we had tons of writing assignments, essays and things like that. And looking around the classroom, I was like, everyone else was struggling with writing, but because I'd had all that practice writing an essay every week, it just felt easy to me. And so, I really enjoyed writing all through college. I liked writing, papers. And if there was a paper that was more of my mark, I was like, thumbs up. That's good for me. And then I've had websites all along since the web started in '93. I had an online snowboard magazine.
Nice.
But the current site, justinjackson.ca, which is where I do most of my writing, I started that in 2008. And it really didn't pick up steam until probably around 2012, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So you're doing 4 years of writing without really any kind of...
Yeah, you can still, if you go to justinjackson.ca, I think /articles, you can see all, like, scroll to the very beginning, and you can see everything I've ever written. Yeah. And if you look at those first blog posts, I'm writing about the IT Crowd, which is a TV show. I was doing tech reviews.
Yeah.
I was, like, all over the place, talking about urban design. And yeah, it wasn't until I started writing about business and the things I was applying at work as a product manager that I started to find a voice and an audience. And I've kind of been on that same path this whole time.
Why do you think you decided to stick with that? Was some of it like it resonating with the world, or was it actually because you were finding value there? Like, what was the reason? Like,
Oh yeah,
it's interesting. It's interesting. I remember seeing on Twitter, I don't know who tweeted it the other day, but they were going back through like Paul Graham, like other, internet venture capitalist types, or just, people that had blogs back then, kind of like yourself. And it's just weird to see all these old topics, but then they all kind of slowly go somewhere.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, definitely everybody wants to have, when you're writing stuff, you want to have an audience. And so once, this early stuff that I was writing, my friends would read it if I forced them to. I would email them after every time I wrote something. I would email it to all of my contacts and say, hey, you should read this new thing I just wrote. But until you get outside of your immediate circle, you're not really resonating. And once I started writing pieces like this is a web page and stuff about product development, stuff about making stuff on the web, that's when it felt like I'm finding a group of people here that are excited about it, that will keep coming back, that will sign up for my newsletter. And that definitely made me want to continue to write for them.
Yeah.
I actually don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if it's, see, my inclination is that it's always audience first.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I found the audience, geeks who make stuff on the web, the writing became so much clearer, so much easier to, write every week, so much easier to find topics, so much easier to find my voice. But when I was writing
it's
about
very personal too. It's who you are too.
Yes, but who I am could have been all sorts of things. And it would be interesting. Unfortunately, we can't A/B test our lives. We can't split test and go, what would have changed if Justin had started writing about urban design and all of a sudden thousands of urban design readers came around?
Yeah.
Well, it's very likely that I would have pivoted to that. I would have invested a lot of time and energy in that. And, as long as it was giving me back what I was putting in, I'd probably be focused on that. And that would have become a bigger part of my personality. Mm-hmm. So it's a tricky question, and it's something I've tried to answer in my writing and when I do a class or when I'm trying to help people figure out, who should you be writing for? Who should you be building products for? Who should you be podcasting to? Mm-hmm. And, like a lot of people, you're probably the same way. You're not just a geek. You're also, maybe you're into fiction writing. Maybe you're into cycling. Maybe you're into rock climbing. Maybe you've been working as a computer engineer, but you also have 20 years of experience in the banking industry. Well, that's all stuff you can talk about. So I don't know the answer, but it feels like picking an audience, writing specifically for that audience, and then if it resonates and you want to continue, then that's what you should do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So one thing I'm kind of realizing too is that you look at it kind of as like mental exercise in some sense. Cause I notice when you write, you do a pretty good job of like research. Like you always have like, it's not like you're just pulling things out of the air. Cause I remember doing that early on where it was like, you're just trying to write to sound smart maybe or something. And it kind of comes across as empty. Like you're just pulling for things.
Yeah.
So how do you push yourself to like do that work?
I mean, now it's my livelihood. And so I actually had a time where I wasn't publishing my newsletter every week. And I noticed that everything kind of suffers when I don't write every week.
Huh, interesting.
And so now I've just regained that habit of every Saturday morning, I am going to publish a newsletter. It goes out, while people are drinking their coffee. I want them to be scrolling their phone or on their laptop, and they're like, oh, yeah, here's Justin's newsletter. Let's see what he has to say. And restarting that practice helped my business. It's a tide that raises all boats, all ships. I'm not sure if that's the right metaphor. But it really, really helps me. And it also really helps me clarify my thinking. And so these days, and it's still a little bit of a messy, contrived process. I'll get an idea, and sometimes that idea comes the Friday before the newsletter has to go out. Most weeks I try to start, Monday or Tuesday. I at least try to be forming something. And the forming process is usually about talking about it with friends. It's about doing some research. It's about testing things out on Twitter. So just like a stand-up comedian goes to a local club and tests out their material with their notepad and they're, testing jokes out and seeing the response, I'm throwing things out on Twitter and seeing what kind of response I get, what kinds of things pop, what kinds of things don't. And once I've got a pretty good sense of that, and I also have just notes and notes and notes of observations from my own life and things I've observed with other people. And
Where
I
do you
just
keep those?
all in just Apple Notes.
Okay.
Is that what it's called? Yeah, just notes. I've tried other
So
systems.
you get like an inkling of an idea or something, you just jot it down.
Jot it down or use the voice memos app just inside of Apple Notes, just talking it out. And yeah, I'll kind of collect all those things, and then I'll start to write somehow. Either on, I've been using Blurt, but sometimes I'm just like right in my, now I used to be WordPress. Now my website's on Statamic, but sometimes right in the editor, sometimes on Blurt, sometimes, wherever I can start writing that outline out and actually, creating the piece, I'll do that. And it's usually best if I can get some feedback on it. So either inside Mega Maker Club, we have a feedback channel, and I'll say, hey, what do you folks think about this? Sometimes I'll message people directly. I'll read it over and over again. And the best pieces have gone through some revisions. And then, it goes out. No matter what, though, it goes out Saturday morning. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, no, it holds you accountable that you have to do it.
Yes.
Because you have everybody waiting for you to do it.
That's right. So. And I should say, maybe I can still evolve this process, but I noticed that you're going to talk to Paul Jarvis. I'm not sure if you've talked to him yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. We talked last week, actually.
Him and I are good friends. And Paul is usually 3 to 4, 5, 6 weeks ahead of when he needs to publish. So he has a queue.
I found that crazy. Yeah.
I have tried that so many times. And the problem is for me, it's all about what is going on this week.
Yeah.
And it's the rawness of that really kind of inspires me to write, and also inspires me to want to publish it. So if I'm feeling something this week, I just want to publish it now because it feels like it's current now. This is what I'm feeling, and potentially this is what the audience is feeling right now. And so the immediacy of that, of, striking when the iron's hot, and it doesn't always work, but sometimes when those things converge, when it's like, this is a hot topic right now, or this is something that hasn't been articulated yet, and I'm going to bring this up.
Yeah.
And it's just, it kind of, it seems to have more impact than if I wait. And
yeah, I think I've seen that with your writing style. It's kind of almost more conversational in that way too, though. Like you're communicating. It's a communication mechanism. I guess that's what writing can be. But
yeah,
you generate like an idea, and then people like the bootstrapping topic you were on the last few weeks really resonated like widely. Like everybody started talking about it.
Yes.
After that point.
Yeah, and sometimes it's almost like a wave. Like the wave is coming, and if you can paddle out with your surfboard and catch the wave just as it's cresting, there's really no feeling like that. And sometimes I feel like writing's like that. You feel like you notice all of these things converging, and you're like, whoa, that's the wave. And if I don't catch it now, I'm going to miss it. And sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I think, oh, something's coming up and this is it. And either I missed it, or it wasn't as big as I thought it would be. That's always a danger. But you definitely notice once, and it's certainly easier for me now to see, like, because I have an audience, things get amplified a bit louder than they would when I was just starting. But even now, I notice when I publish something that kind of had like a little whimper, as opposed to something that hits and really has an impact.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting noticing how. So I remember like Ryan Hoover back in the day was talking about like blog first startups. Like it's a good way to test ideas basically and to share your understanding with other people. So you're kind of like validating like, this is kind of what I'm thinking about, everybody. And then everybody can be like, yeah, I kind of agree with that.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. It also clarifies your thinking. Like when it's all in your head, that's the most dangerous time for any idea is when it's all in your head. It's so, it keeps you up at night. It drives you crazy. And until you articulate it, it's almost like you don't even know what you have. But once you've written it down, writing really forces you to clarify your thinking. And once you've written it down, you can look at it even yourself and go, oh, there's actually nothing here. In my head, it seemed like such an incredible idea, but now that I write it out, even I can see this is nothing. This is no big deal. But sometimes you write it out and you just feel like, whoa, like I've just given birth to something that is,
what is this?
Something's here, you know? And, I feel like there's definitely times where I've been able to articulate something and go, yeah, this is it. And I would say actually most of my mistakes come when I either haven't written the idea out or I haven't been honest in the writing. And so if I'm trying to hold on to my ego or to my pride, if I'm resisting this idea of being vulnerable, it really doesn't come out right. But and I think people can almost sometimes sense when you're protecting yourself a bit. And we notice this when we read things. You can read something and go, this person's hiding. They're not, they're trying to make things look like everything's okay. But what I've found anyway is that people really respond to a certain amount of rawness. Doesn't mean you have to be completely transparent, but to openly and honestly say, you know, here's what I'm really thinking and feeling right now. And, and you'll notice if you go back through my writing, you'll notice that the Justin Jackson of 2018 was definitely, had less ego when it came to this is the right way to bootstrap a SaaS than in previous years. In previous years,
well, I think I've seen that. That's kind of been a trend, I think, in software community. I think in the world right now too, is we just want to be more real. Like we want, you know. So I think that's part of it too.
Yeah, I think there's openness now to like mental health, for example, was a big topic in 2018, and that's actually a good question. Maybe this is just the right time to be more open and vulnerable. I'm not sure. That's, who knows? Again, we can't split test reality, but there was definitely this feeling of like, once the cat was out of the bag, once all of a sudden this thing had been expressed and was out there in the open, it was almost like we could all just breathe a sigh of relief, like, okay, it's safe to talk about this. And so I saw that trend as well. And there's still a balance here. I don't know what it is, because I've also, I think, overshared at some points and had that not be great. But
you don't want to do the what's the trend everyone's talking about, like, you know, you don't want to be too depressing or down on yourself. Like at a certain point, you have to kind of be real with yourself about what's going on in the world and for yourself.
Yeah. Also. Yeah. There's like failure porn. That's one thing people talk
that's what
about.
It was. That's what I was. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
And it was kind of started by James Altucher, who, if you read some of his early stuff, it's like, wow, he's bleeding all over the page. And I actually really appreciated a lot of his stuff, but you can see that there is a limit. Like there's a balance to this. It
Yeah,
can't.
you kind of you can get numb to it, at least as a reader too.
Yeah, you can get numb to it, and also remember, people don't want to just hear negative stuff. Like sometimes they do. And actually, anyone who's really familiar with story narratives, and I'll find this article for you for your show notes, but here's an example. So Britney Spears, she's superstar, young superstar, up and up and up, and then she has the fall. And, you know, she's super popular when she's young and gaining popularity, and then it's almost like people wanted to see her humanity. They're like, there's something selfishly that people like about seeing people fall, about seeing people taken down a few notches, about seeing the humanity of, you know, oh, here's a superstar, but she freaks out just like a normal human being.
Right.
But then they don't want, you know, Britney to be down forever. They start cheering for her to have her comeback, right? And then she had her comeback, and who knows where she is now. But that rise and fall and rise is important. And if you are subscribed to someone's newsletter and it's just all down, like this week sucked. Okay, this week sucked. Okay, this week sucked. Okay, this week sucked. Okay, it's depressing.
Well, yeah.
And unfortunately, that is, this is where you can't just always talk about real life. Sometimes you've got to have some redemption. You've got to have like, okay, here's the fall, here's the pain, here's the struggle, but here's some hope, here's some rebuilding, here's some, you know, here's a new adventure.
Yeah, I think people love the hero's journey. You know, like we kind of expect that story. Like, you know, like you need to be tested. And I think part of people like to hear that. Like we need to know what people are actually going through, that it actually is hard. It's not all just like rosy.
Yes. Unfortunately, real life doesn't always just follow that, you know, arc. And so this is where you kind of have to balance things out. It's kind of just like a relationship, though. Like if you have a friend that you meet every week for coffee or for a beer, and, you know, part of the reason for those meetings is, hey, man, I'm having a super hard week. I just got to unload right now. That's okay. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 weeks in a row. But eventually, even if you're not feeling great, you might want to, you know, give that friend a break and, you know, talk about something else.
Yeah, you need to change the topic or something.
Change the tone. I mean, this is one of the benefits of therapy, is that a therapist just has to listen to you no matter what you're going through, whether it's bad or good.
Right.
But if you're in a relationship with someone, and the reader-author thing is a relationship, you want to mix that up. Here's me being vulnerable. Here's me being real. Here's what's really going on. But also, here's some hope. Here's some things about you. Here's how we can help you get to this next place.
That's great.
And having a mix there is important.
Cool. So I want to try to connect the dots to something we kind of started on a little bit too, for other people that are aspiring writers. You know, like you were saying, you started out and you were just writing kind of whatever's in your head. And I know sometimes what's tough when you start writing is like no one really listens necessarily or necessarily cares. So this is almost more marketing in some sense. But is there a reason that people should continue? You know, you need to practice, you need to get better, you need to find your voice, you need to find something that resonates with people. But what's your advice there?
In terms of like how to find your voice?
Yeah, find your voice. Like, you know, is writing for everybody? Is that something you think everybody should be doing?
Oh, that's hard because, again, clearly, if you look into my past, I've always been into writing. And so, like, it's kind of like saying, is math for everyone? I don't know. I really hated math. Yeah. So there's definitely some folks that will be more into math and some folks that will be more into writing. I do think, just like everyone should grasp the fundamentals of math because it'll be good for your life, I think everyone should grasp the fundamentals of writing because it'll be good for your life. Putting things on a page even if you're not going to publish them, is just good self-care.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I've talked a lot about mental health this past year, and when the things are rattling around in your head, that is where they are the most dangerous. But just the simple act of writing them out, even if you intend to destroy them, is very, very helpful.
Yeah.
And I think
I find the same thing. Yeah. So in fact, actually so I'm working on a new feature for Blurt I'm calling goals, but one of them is just journaling. So I'm trying to help people that do want to write, like stick to it, at least for a little while. So it's like, what do you want to write? You want to write blog posts? Do you want to just journal? Do you want to, but I personally feel the same way, that like, I write a lot of stuff that I never share, but similarly, just getting it down kind of helps me to like, okay, that's out of my head. It's just out. Like
Yeah, exactly. And I actually created this thing called writeanddestroy.com, which is the whole idea is that you just write any of the awful stuff in your head that you're feeling emotionally. And at the end you click shred, and then it shreds it, and it's gone. So I think that's one part, is that just writing is good for the brain. I think, in terms of finding your voice, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think it all depends on the audience. Because once you know who you're speaking to, everything becomes a lot clearer. What kinds of things should I write about? What kind of tone should I convey? Should I use long sentences or short sentences? Like if you look at my writing, it's very short sentences. Da 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 da. It has its own rhythm. And when you can get a sense of who these people are that you're talking to, and what kinds of things they want, where they're trying to get to, what they value, what stage of life they're in, then you're writing. That's what forms the writing. So this is a web page, which is by far the most popular thing I've written. Is not an incredible piece of writing, but it taps into this nerve that a lot of geeks felt, which was, if you came of age when the internet became a thing, you remember how simple it was and how magical that was to edit an HTML file in a text editor and put it on GeoCities and then have the whole world see it. And it seemed simpler back then. And then I connect it to this kind of modern anxiety, which is, man, to build a web page now, there's 100 dependencies, and you need all of these frameworks, and you need this and this and this and this. Can't we just do away with all that? And so I'm connecting these things that are both kind of strongly felt things. And that resonated. Because of the audience. If I posted that same piece in a different community, most of the traffic and the amplification of that came from Hacker News. For a while, I think it was the piece that had been on the homepage the longest in their whole history. But in another community, it doesn't. It might not have resonated as much. So knowing the audience, knowing who you're writing for, matters a lot. And you can be always kind of testing that out, point. But I think knowing who it is and then finding your voice within that community is important too. I might have a voice in the geek community, but there are other people with very different voices that still write to that community and have done very well as well.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Yeah, I think, there is some like personal aspect of writing, but if you're actually looking to use it to grow an audience or to actually, use it in some capacity for marketing, you should think of it like a product itself. Who is this audience? What are their problems? And then kind of think about your writing being done in that way, I guess. Yeah,
not just what their problems are, which is important, but what do they care about? You want to write about what people care about. And I know we're going long. I'm sorry, Corey. I talk a lot.
This is great stuff. This is awesome.
You can learn so much from stand-up comedians. The whole if you go to a comedy show and you just examine where you laugh, and so much of comedy is just articulating this thing that has never been articulated that way before, exposing this thing that is widely felt but has not yet been brought out into the light. And so you'll notice, like, someone will say, this thing, and they'll just kind of put it out in front of everybody, and that reaction of laughter is like, oh my God, like, I thought I was the only one that felt that, or I've totally had that thought before, but I've never known how to express it.
Yeah.
And they just put it out there.
Yep.
And that's my favorite writing, both in terms of the writing I do and the writing I read, are these times where it's like surprising. And I asked Derek Sivers, what's your like number one piece of writing advice for me? And it was just really short. He said, just write what's surprising. If it's not surprising, just don't write about it.
It's not. Yeah.
Man, that's a pretty high bar, because there's even part of me that wants to say, well, I've been talking about this forever. Why can't I just say that same thing I've been saying forever? But you notice pretty quick that people, when they read it, go, oh, I've already heard that. And you could be like, well, you still don't get it, but it doesn't matter. Right. You have to make it surprising. You have to express it in a way that you haven't expressed before. You have to give it a metaphor, a twist. You have to do something that helps people be surprised by it again. And even so, the topics might still be the same, but if it's not surprising, it doesn't matter.
That's awesome advice. Yeah, no, that's great advice. Yeah, because I see that a lot when people start writing. I know I did that when I first started writing. I haven't written anything amazing particularly, but I think that's the trick. You know what I mean? Or the trick, but like you do need to push yourself in some sense to like have that expectation for yourself even.
Yeah, totally.
In your thinking. Yeah. All right, man. This has been an awesome chat. We should do another one maybe down the road here. The power of writing. But I encourage people, like, if you're into podcasting, definitely go check out Transistor FM, .fm.
Yeah.
Right. And go sign up for Justin's newsletter. You can get all these great pieces we've been talking about, all the crazy ideas that he's onto. Definitely. I'm pretty sure everybody knows who you are, but if they don't, definitely go check out Justin, and we'll be talking again soon, man. It's great.
Cool.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. By the way, I am a big fan of Blurt. My favorite feature is to go into it and start the timer. The timer where you count down, like, I'm going to write for 20 minutes and it counts down. That is brilliant. And I don't get that experience anywhere else. So when I do write in Blurt, it's always with the timer.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm hopeful. I've been really slow. Like, I've been trying to figure out how to become this bootstrapper, wrapping my head around that.
Yeah.
So like figuring out the marketing side, like building products, just one side, but now I'm just like, oh man, there's so much to do. So I feel like now I'm back to kind of building product again, and I have some other avenues. So I'm hopeful to like kind of focus more on helping writing, not becoming this writing platform. So
yeah,
stay tuned.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Perfect. Thanks, dude.
Okay, I stopped the recording here, but yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. That was awesome.
Yeah, I think what's great about this is so much of writing is aspirational. By the way, we're still live. Hello to everyone that's still watching. So much of writing is aspirational, and so like for me, when I really wanted to write, when I really wanted to write on the web, a lot of it was after I started reading Signal versus Noise.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to write like Jason Fried. Like, that was the whole point.
Yeah, he's got a good style.
Or start reading Derek Sivers, and it's like, man, if I could write like that, that would be incredible. And so what propelled me to want to become a writer, and what propelled me to then sign up for WordPress hosting. And, I've bought dozens of writing apps. I've bought, pay for Grammarly. I pay for, the Hemingway editor. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep.
All of these tools I've used what's propelling me forward is the aspiration of I want to write well. Oh, and then I started hanging out with Paul Jarvis and Jared Drysdale, and I'm like, damn it, these guys are so effing good at writing. That's what makes me want to write. And I think what you want to do with Blurt is connect to some of those emotions. For example, one emotion that I think a nerve that a lot of people have right now is this idea of focus, deep work.
Distraction, limiting.
Yeah, Nathan Barry just released this article that everyone was talking about how he was using Forest, this app, and then Streaks. Dude, you could build... I mean, you've already got the timer piece in Blurt, but you could have a thing about... Well, you have Streaks already. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, so my plan right now is like... I think it's like a coming movement we're going to see. Like you were just talking about. Like, it's almost like, new age thinking, mental health kind of thing of like building healthy habits. Mm-hmm. So like products that help you develop... we know that software is incredibly good at, it's so damn addicting. Like Twitter is an amazingly addicting piece of software.
Yeah.
So why don't we create software that actually helps us do good things? So I think that's what my hope is, that Blurt writing is actually a healthy thing to do. And if you could develop a normal practice of doing this, then, that would be that's a great thing. So yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm working on is like developing reminders, days of the week that you want to write, and develop like a streak that you can, keep going. Maybe you can compete with friends or something along those lines.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And sometimes even, like if I Google writing app with timer, sorry, do you have to go right now?
No, I'm good. I'm good for, till 2:00.
Writing app with timer.
Is there anything that comes up?
13 productivity apps that will help you keep your writing goals on track. I would definitely, all of these 7 writing tools, etc. 15 I would reach out to all of these blogs and say, because it gives them an opportunity to update their post. Instead of March 29th, 2017, it could say, right now. And there's no reason you shouldn't be on all of those lists.
Yeah, I need to get with these blogs. Yeah,
but the other thing is, you should be ranking for writing app with timer.
Okay.
Because if people are looking for that, they have the intent, they want to do that, then, you want to connect with them.
Yep.
The other thing is, so that's like if people are searching for that, that's when the desire has already been articulated. Now, for those people who have the desire, but it hasn't been articulated, they need to see evidence all over the place of people using these apps. And it could just be, you reaching out to customers like me and saying, hey, Justin, could you just record a quick 30-second, 1-minute video about your writing process in Blurt? And I would go, okay, we'll start recording. I'll be like, hey, it's Justin, and this is how I write in Blurt. I go in and I set a timer. I want to try to write uninterrupted for 20 minutes. And so having the evidence of that, having people being able to watch it and go, oh, wow, that's how he does it. That's how and they're going to connect it to all sorts of things that may or may not be true. Like, oh, that's how he writes all the time. That's how he became a better writer. That's how it's the thing that propels them forward.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that aspirational side of things. Mm-hmm. That's what I need to wrap my head around, the messaging or how to help there. I mean, so yes, I'm going to hit you up here pretty soon for that 1-minute video. But yeah. And I'm working on affiliate, maybe there's something I can do with I had a really big lift in traffic last week, a YouTube star. I don't even know how he found it. But he shared Blurt for college students, and that was a huge uptick.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, just because of the timer. So, but the big thing is aspirationally people want to write, but the problem is I kind of think of it like a gym membership. It's hard. Mm-hmm. It's you want to work out, you want to be a writer, but you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm kind of thinking about this habit feature where it's just kind of it's just putting you on like a track to kind of help you get it done.
Yeah, totally.
That might help.
Here's another idea. You might have already thought of this. And again, okay. I know ideas are a dime a dozen, but
yeah, no, this is great.
Because you want to create the momentum, you should have this week on Blurt. Like, here's what people wrote this week on Blurt. And so, and make it super easy for people to submit their writing. And so every week they see, you know, here's what Justin wrote. Here's what Corey wrote. Here's what Miguel wrote. Here's what Flower Puppy wrote. Here's what Brave Nick wrote. This is it, and it makes you go, oh man, I want to have my stuff in there. And at the end of every one, you go, you want us to, anyone's welcome. You just click this, and then we will, you know, you have a very good chance of being featured.
It could be like part of a newsletter. Yeah, like a weekly newsletter.
A weekly newsletter, exactly. Yeah. And eventually you would want to make it painless for yourself. Let me just look at because you've got suggestions on.
So right.
So under sharing.
Right now you can go to share.
Yeah. Yep. So under share, why can't you add one more icon that looks like a newspaper or an email? Probably not email, but something that just lets me click it and say, share this with the Blurt community. And it automatically, it's painless for me. And eventually for you just add there's I don't know what you're using for newsletters, but there's even tools that will allow you to just like add a link. It'll automatically put in the title and the summary and everything else.
Yeah, I can do that with SendGrid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's something there, because then it was kind of like when Ryan Hoover started Startup Edition. Were you a writer for Startup Edition?
I did. I wrote a couple pieces.
Okay, so you remember every week he would put out a challenge. He'd be like, okay, this week we're writing about this.
Yeah, you're right.
And
that's a great idea.
If you wrote about it, you were in it, and it had...
That's an awesome idea. Yeah.
It just felt like... And think about all the writers that were in that group. There's you, there's Nate Cotney, there's me, there was Paul Jarvis. There's all these people that are still writing now. And it was really special. But no one's done that since...
yeah, it'd be great for people to kind of build their own. I mean, obviously, just starting out, I need to get to that like critical mass. But it would be great for people to develop So I had that thought too. It'd be kind of neat for people to like use this as a means of generating newsletters. But that's a whole nother. Now we're talking like platform level stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways,
here's another thing I would definitely put in your marketing. Is so I was a Draft customer for a long time. I just canceled actually. And partly because I wasn't using it anymore. And there was just some functionality that wasn't there anymore that, I would have liked to have had. But, hey Bryce, how's it going, man? The thing I liked about Draft is that it became the place where I only go there to write. That's it. There's nothing else I do there. If I get into WordPress, there is a dozen things I can do in WordPress. I can
get distracted.
You can get distracted. And it takes time to train this habit. And if you're not are you reading James Clear's Atomic Habits yet?
I am. I'm about halfway through right now.
Okay. Yeah. That book, especially there's what chapter? You've probably already passed it, but it just talks about reducing friction. Like we will always go, which is way is easiest.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I've already got pathways now that when I go to write, I write in Statamic or WordPress, or you know what I mean? Like those pathways are already there. You've got to create new pathways for me.
So that's, I agree. So my hope is, so right now I'm really, so initially I was like, oh, I'm going to create this tool to like help everybody write better. And I was like, so that's like, it wasn't focused enough. And so right now I'm really focusing on like the aspirational writers, like people that want to develop the habit, because the truth is that a great writer like yourself or whoever, all you need is like you need Apple Notes and you're off to the races. You know what I mean?
First of all, I wouldn't say I'm a great writer. And second of all, I would say I've actually never written a whole piece in Apple Notes, because that's where it breaks down a little bit, is that Apple Notes is like, what I type into late at night when I can't sleep. And I'll have like pieces in there. But again, this is why, what do you call these contextual cues and these contextual environments, right? So when I get to my office, I know this is the place I work, right? My brain gets this cue of this is the place you work. Don't watch YouTube here. Don't watch Netflix here. This is where you work. And if I start mixing that up, it screws me up. And notes is the place I write my notes. But where do I write? Like, where does it all come together? And right now, for me, that's Statamic or WordPress. I think you could switch that by make it as easy as possible for me to write in Blurt. And you've got to start to see what points of friction and what things people need to check off in order to get into Blurt. So for me, when Blurt is a pinned tab, I write more in Blurt. So that would be a great onboarding tip. Hey, welcome to Blurt. You want to get the most out of Blurt? Here's the first thing you do. Right click on that tab, pin your tab. So Blurt's always there and you're ready to write whenever you can, right? You got to create pathways for people.
To make that habit formation easier.
Easier. Yeah.
That link I sent you is like screenshots of like, I was kind of like designing that the other day.
Yeah, I want to write a journal, blog post, newsletter.
Something along those lines. And then you would click it and they would take you to the next scene. Okay, well, how many words, what are you trying to, I don't know if it's words or time. This might be too complicated, but maybe it's not every day. It's like on some schedule. And then I was taking from James Clear's book, like where are you going to do that? Just, I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to like build that into your mindset. And now that's a goal that you're going to try to commit to during the week.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's Brian Ball in the chat here says you need a Blurt alert. But that is actually smart in that another cue can be just even a rhyme. Like, if I got some sort of email like, hey, you promised yourself that you were going to write on Monday. Here's your Blurt alert. And that cue of, oh yeah, Blurt alert. That means I got to go and write.
Yeah, I love it.
But I think for folks here on the chat, I just want to show them this thing you sent me. I can put it in the chat too. But
and then there's another one that actually so I've gone on since then. I'm actually building this. Like this is what I was doing while I was late talking with you.
Oh, cool.
But there's another view that shows like a summary of this. So like how you're doing. Are you on track? Are you like hitting your goals? What's your streak? That type of stuff.
Oh, cool.
And I don't know how much of that should be shared because I was actually looking at like things like Duolingo because they have like competitions with your friends or other people, peer groups or something. But I don't really know how important that is. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the with friends thing,
it should be personal. This is how I kind of feel about it. Like, you need to be doing this for yourself.
It should be personal. I mean, I think one of the jobs to be done with live streaming, especially people that are live streaming like programming on Twitch, is a lot of people will put that stuff on in the background and it's like you're working beside someone at a coffee shop.
Right.
And I think there is something to that of like, oh, we're both here, we're doing work. I can like check the Twitch window and I can see you typing on your, and it's kind of this feeling of like, I'm not alone. Mm-hmm. There is something to that piece, but for me, like I would never live stream myself writing because it would just be too much. When I'm live streaming, I'm performing. And so the idea of performing while I'm writing, I just can't do both. I need to.
That's a mess.
I need to get into like this thought of like, okay, here I am, here's what I've got so far. I do share, like once in a while, I'll share on Twitter, like, hey, here's an early draft of Saturday's newsletter if you want to check it out. And I think Blurt already has that.
Yeah, you can share a link of it early on if you want.
Yeah.
Before you publish it.
I think another good trigger at this point of the year is 2018 review. A lot of people write 2018 year review posts, and that's the one draft I have in Blurt right now. Is what are my plans for what's the review for this year, and what are my plans for next year? Okay. And if people are looking for something to write about, that could be a great one.
Yeah, so that's a good idea. So I had that in my backlog of like topic ideas, and I don't know. So that would go well too with that group newsletter idea. So maybe just have like, you know, every week there's like 3 topics that are just kind of like, here's what's trending.
Yeah.
You know, here's what people are thinking this week. That would be kind of cool, and then you could have all these opinions kind of formed.
Yeah, and people want to be published. Like they want, you know, people to experience their writing. And so just being able to participate in something like that where I could publish to your newsletter, that would be huge, right? All of a sudden,
so that's a great idea. Yeah. I should focus maybe some more on like the maker, you know, indie community first, and just see if there's like some cool topics to like hit on weekly.
Yeah.
And start there.
Yeah. And I also think eventually for you, like we've seen a lot of traction with, for a while, my most popular tip was how to cross-post onto Medium and how to cross-post onto Indie Hackers. And that might be cool too. Like, you know, here's a way of publishing directly to Indie Hackers. Here's a way of publishing.
Yes. So initially I had the thought, I could be a Medium or something. But I don't think that's what Blurt is. I think Blurt helps you write. It's not necessarily, yeah, maybe I can publish and do things like that.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily want to get in the way of like, I'm helping you generate all this content. I want you to get it out there, right? So I don't want to get in the way of helping you distribute that. Like this is here to help you get it out and to get it out to the world.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
So Medium does have a publishing API that's in my backlog as well. But it could be pretty cool to talk to maybe like Indie Hackers or Product Hunt or whoever, you know, like where are these other communities where maybe you could publish things? That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and for people to be able to do it all from one place would be interesting. Yeah. I mean, usually what I recommend is people publish on their own site first, and then they cross-post and use their site as the canonical URL. So,
Corey, that's true. There is some SEO problems there.
Corey Mass wants to know what kind of writing is Blurt for. Oh, I can't hear you now. Oh, there you go. Yeah, no, I can hear you. Yeah.
So initially it's for all types of writing. I would say it's limited for like research, you know, like if you're doing any kind of like, you know, college essays or something. But it's more Medium-esque. It's like for blog posts, journals, personal, you know, reflection, that type of writing. It's more like the Medium, I would say, you know, variety.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it seems
newsletters, I think, are a potential area for people to write too, I think.
Yeah, it seems especially suited for people writing a newsletter or a blog. And like I said, like my favorite part of it right now is you start a session. I'm just showing people this right now. And then you have to say what you're writing about. So this might be why we all need community. And then how long do I want to write for? 20 minutes. Oh. I just tried typing it in and it didn't work. Now I'm using the arrows. And then, or you can do word count, but I always do 20 minutes. And then it shows me how much timer I have left. And so now I got to just start writing. And I usually just start, it forces me to say, okay, for the past 6 years, I've been running a small community, and it just getting started and saying, I'm not going to do anything else except for write right now is really, really helpful. So,
do you ever try using that blur feature at all, out of curiosity?
What does the blur feature do? Oh, it doesn't let you see what you've written. I've never even tried it until now, but I'm demoing it for everyone else here.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So that was kind of the idea too. Like, so now you can't even see what you're writing. So that kind of prevents you. you know, if you're really anal, that's going to be a problem for you.
Yeah, you just need to like focus. Yeah.
Yeah. Just get the words out.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, another good trigger for people is to say, like, show people how they can enter full screen mode. You know, I don't. Yeah,
Peter Levels was like, if you do dark mode and somehow get a full screen mode, I would use that all the time. So,
yeah,
those are like two things I'm trying to get done.
Yeah, maybe there's a Electron app in your future or something. Because I actually use Hemingway quite a bit in the old days. Which is just and I'll show it for everyone else I'll show it to everyone else on the live chat, but it's just a Electron app that connects to the web app, and it doesn't allow you to publish anywhere. It's like, but the idea of having this fake desktop app is that now I can just like, you know, focus on this. And now Corey's just catching up with us. This is like real time. Before I mentioned the Electron app, Corey says, is there a desktop app coming? Having this app open among my 100 open tabs would be too distracting.
Yeah. So that's what's funny. I remember Product Hunt, that was like, not a criticism, but like a feedback thing somebody had where they were like, you know, it's kind of ironic. Here you are, this like, you know, it's supposed to be this distraction-free environment, but yet you're in the browser with all these tabs and all this other crap bugging you. So, but that did have me go down the rabbit hole of like, well, it would be cool to have this desktop app that also blocked your like internet connection, or like you had to write in order to, you know, that would be like the extreme side of it. But that'd be kind of cool too.
Offline. Yeah. Like using some of that offline mode stuff. Yeah, there's something about that for sure. That's, I think that you're starting to think like, well, you're not starting, you're obviously a product person. You're thinking like a product person now, which is, a developer thinks, okay, I'm just going to build this thing. It's going to be a web app because that's how it makes sense. But a product person says, outside of these bounds, what are the human elements I need to figure out? And human beings get distracted. If human beings have a bunch of tabs open, they're going to, you know, forget what they're doing. If human beings can't access this quickly, if I sign up for Blurt and I do not make it a pinned tab, and maybe I'm the only one that works that way, but you got to figure out how other human beings are doing.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm going to forget about it. And then you're going to email me in 4 weeks with some sort of automated newsletter. I'm going to go, I can't even remember what this is for, right?
Right.
And so you've got to create these things right now where you're almost not angry, but in a very forceful way to say, listen, stop. You just signed up. If you want to get the best out of this, you must do these things. Pin this or add it to your bookmarks right away.
I love that.
Do it right away. Write something right now. Just sit down and write something for 5 minutes so you get used to writing. And then you want to create these pathways, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. So like, so I think that phrasing, if you want to get the most out of this, is what I needed. Because so I have another buddy that's actually a writer. And that's been the hardest part for me, is like wanting to educate my customer, which is like kind of nasty, because you don't want to tell somebody. You want them to kind of like just come to you and be like, oh, I know why I need this and how I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of like, well, in order for you to get the most out of this, this is how you should use it. You don't want to, you know, it's almost like being a coach or something. Yeah. So
totally.
I think that phrasing is really good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Totally. Yeah. And for people to see it in use a lot, meaning, for you to be doing live streams and videos and other things where you show everything, including the messy, like, okay, so this is what I do. I have it in a pinned tab and I open it up, and like, you have to give people a vision for how they could use it in their own lives. And so much of this, I actually have this theory about ConvertKit, and that the reason it was so successful is that when you created a sequence, it gave you 5 emails with sample content. And just having that template was something that MailChimp didn't do. And so it was, I think a lot of times people were just paying for the template. Like, I just want to have something to start me, you know?
Yeah, that was another good one. A friend of mine immediately said, I think they were thinking more along the lines of Notion, because I don't necessarily want to be a note-taking app, but it would be really slick to have like your journal format or something, you know, like, you know, like these headers or something. So it's just really easy to like hop in and like, boom, okay, now I'm just writing this thing. So topics is probably a good first
Yeah, totally.
MVP for that. So yeah, I need to. Yeah, the other thing I'm trying to wrap my head around is the landing page right now too, of like maybe just making it a very limited form of the app. So instead of explaining what it is, just letting people use it. That's going to be an experiment I'm going to try.
Yeah.
But that. The more I go down that road talking to people, that does kind of open the can of worms of like selling yourself short on your product a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the editor is actually not the thing. Like the editor is great, but I could use Microsoft Word. I could use Google Docs. I could use Draft. I could use like there's so many things that I could use. To me, I'm really buying a lot of these other things.
Yeah, the process. Yeah,
the process, the trigger, the environment, the just the mind space. Like this is where I go to write. And along those lines, like Brian is saying, maybe you could try Mad Libs, like fill in the blanks to get writing started. And maybe it is just like if you send me a topic email, you say click here to get started, and all it does is it fills in the title for me, and I'm like, oh, I got a title.
And the timer starts.
Yeah, and the timer starts,
right.
and then I'm writing. There is something about that. I think that is helpful.
All right, cool, man. Yeah.
Cool. Well, good chatting, man. We'll have to do this again.
Awesome chatting with you. Yeah, we'll do it again. It's awesome. These product talks are interesting too. I don't know how often you do that, but that'd be if you ever were just talking to other makers or people out there, I'd be curious just to hear you talk about all that stuff.
Yeah, well, this is something we're going to be trying inside of Mega Maker Club is weekly roundtables. Okay. I think eventually it will be a paid upgrade, but to start, any of the existing members will get it. And every week it will be a panel. I think I'll be there most of the time, but I don't even need to be there. And it's just kind of like what you and I are doing, like shucking and jiving about, okay, here's the app, here's the thing, here's what I learned, and doing that on a bunch of topics. Because there's so many smart people inside of Mega Maker Club, like people who have built really incredible businesses and products, and just like have a panel. I think we can have up to 4 people on screen, and then everyone else can join in on chat or whatever. I think there's a lot of value to this kind of stuff here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've been trying to do. So I'm pretty involved with the work in progress community. But that is one aspect that's kind of missing, is like this like mastermind level discussion, because it's hard, it's like these async chat rooms, or it's just missing that like direct part of communication.
Yeah. I think that I'm going to make a video about this right away, but one of my favorite things at MicroConf is the workshops where you just have a table of people and you're all talking about something. So I think this is something that we want to keep doing. All right, man. I'll let you go.
All right, dude.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Right.
Bye.
Take care. Talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm still here live. It got so hot in this room while I was talking to him. By the way, do I have so when I go desktop, now you can just see me going around with, okay, there's Blurt. Okay, let me go back here. Yeah, Brian, some people want to write, need a prompt, they need to answer a question. Yeah, totally. I agree completely with that. Where is... I'm just fiddling around now in my live software. Hey, how's it going, Jake Casey? We just finished the chat. It's already done. Now, Corey had to go, but nice to see you here. Anything else I should talk about before I go? Wow, we were streaming for an hour. Oh, nice. Hi, Connie. Good to see you. Yeah, you should be on YouTube. You should be able to rewind and watch the whole thing. But if you're into writing or any of that, then it's a good discussion to have. Whoop. So, yeah, the round table. So the whole idea there is, let me show you. I got to be careful here. I'm texting my wife at the same time. I don't want to reveal that to the world here. So let me show you my desktop. Hopefully this is right. MicroConf starter. So this right here. This clip of me is from the roundtables at MicroConf. And the whole idea, oh man, this thing is, gotta move this over here. The whole idea is the speakers give a talk, and then there's this one day where it's just everyone can join your table and you talk about that topic. And some tables had, 2 or 3 people hosting it. Others had just one. And I just found that was the most effective conversation I've ever had at a conference, was having a group of people, and I'm definitely leading the discussion, but everybody is contributing. And so that's something people have wanted inside of Mega Maker Club for a long time. We've been a Slack, chat, and a forum since 2013, and we've tried this before. So we tried doing like masterminds. We're like organizing masterminds for people, and that didn't work for a variety of reasons. But I think something like this, where every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific, we show up on video. I've got some guests already. I think I can show you that. Hold on. Where's the actual spreadsheet? Oh, I'm not signed in here. I'll just do that. And then, but I've got some guests already. And then basically those 4 panelists show up on about a particular topic, and everyone else joins in on the chat. And we have this, like, the kind of the experts in that topic speak, and people can ask questions, people can contribute their own thing. And then at the end of this hour, we have this live discussion that is completely current. So instead of me creating another course that becomes outdated in, 6 months or whatever, people would pay a monthly subscription to be a part of these roundtables with these experts. And I think there's something to that is really powerful. And we're going to test it out inside of Mega Maker Club. So existing members will get at least 4 weeks for free while we test out the concept. And then we're going to kind of take it to the next level if it works. So here, I'll sign back in. I just, for the first time, I finally switched my main domain on Google Apps to MegaMaker. It's been bizbox.ca, which is my old company. And so now I have to sign back in everywhere. So this is the round tables that I have booked already. So how to get into public speaking is next week. So far, Jason Charnes is joining me on that. We're going to have a Canadian edition while everyone else is while everyone else is having Thanksgiving. Put 4 Canadians here. So that's going to be with Hamish, and then Adam Wathen is going to join me on November 29th. Joe Workman is going to join me on December 6th. So, yeah, that's all going to be like private live video sessions just for Mega Maker Club members starting November 15th. We're going to test all this out. Connie asked me a question, and maybe I can answer that, and then I got to get going. Do you have any resources with your podcast and live stream setup? I've never seen Skype streaming to YouTube before. Oh, yeah, for sure. Go to, I'll post this in the chat as well, but go to justinjackson.ca/live streaming, and this has my whole live streaming setup. So basically, the way I'm recording this and adding in all the comments and stuff is with Ecamm Live, and then the restreaming happens here in Restream.io. And so this allows me to take one feed and put it out to all of these different channels: Twitch, Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube events. And so I'm able to do all of that. Just one feed feeds into Restream, and then does all of this. I could probably show you a screenshot of what this looks like. Here, let me just take a screenshot, and then I'll show you. So if I screenshot this, and how do I open that? Can I open? I'm just trying to think of the best way to show this to you. This is what it looks like for me, right? Is I have all of the comments right here. I have scenes that I can switch between. I've got overlays, and yeah, all of that happens here in Ecamm Live. Sweet. Well, this was fun. I'm glad we could do this. Thanks for being here, everyone. And if you're not signed up for megamaker.co/club, we're going to be inviting some new members shortly. So go check that out, and you'll get to try these roundtables that we're going to be experimenting with. So, I'll add that to the screen, and then I'll say goodbye. But I'll let that go for a while if you want to go sign up, megamaker.co/club. Be awesome to see you in there. We basically let folks in every week. We'll kind of take the next batch and send them an invite code. So if that's interesting to you, go check it out. Talk to you later. Bye.